Welcome back, Caddy Corner, episode 59. I'm Austin.
And I'm Caleb.
And today, this episode is reflecting on 2 years of college, which is kind of crazy to think about that we've done that, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It's end of semester time for everybody. And so I guess, first of all, good luck. If you have any more school, good luck on your tests and stuff like that. They suck sometimes, but they're not that bad once they're over with because you can go home and take a nap, I guess. But we're just going to kind of reflect on what we've learned in 2 years of college and just have a conversation, I think. Not super rigid, structured show, just talking. And But before we get too far into it, though, make sure to rate and review the show. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and also share the show around. It helps a lot with the growth of the podcast. If you know anybody who is either going to college or whatever that could use a show like this, just send it to them. It takes like 2 seconds. It's like 2 clicks. So without further ado, Caleb, take it away.
All right. Yeah, it's crazy that we've gone to college for 2 years. It doesn't feel like we've done that at all. At least to me, it doesn't anyway. I think that probably the biggest thing that I've taken away from these last 2 years of college is that I've learned how I do school the best. And that's one thing that I didn't learn in high school. And I don't really know why, but whenever I got to college, it just kind of like clicked. And it really helped my learning abilities, I would say. I'm a note taker, writing it down, and like once I got my iPad, it made writing notes more fun, easier, you have more control and all that stuff, and I think that definitely helped. But I had never taken notes before, and so like learning how to take notes was kind of like a fun thing too. And so yeah, I think in these last 2 years I've just learned that like going to lecture and like learning and like taking in information is like a fun thing to do, and you just have to figure out how to make it fun. And
yeah. Do you think that did you ever think in high school that you sucked at learning?
No, I never really felt like I had to push myself in high school. And so, yeah, I never felt like I sucked at learning. I just thought that
everything was going to be easy.
Yeah, it was just like, I don't know. I just felt like no matter what I did, I would get like a decent grade, and that's really all that I cared about.
I think that's how it is, I think that's why, because I have a similar point. Like, that's why I don't think anybody realizes how they operate best as a student in high school,
Yeah.
I don't really know. I mean, if anybody ever has, congratulations to them, I guess, but it's just not how it is. I don't think that it's a place where it's not really set up to really challenge you. I don't think.
No.
And maybe it was at one time, but I don't think it is now,
Yeah.
It's just kind of understood that you pass,
Right.
And which, I mean, is fine, I guess, but I'm not an expert in that area of the world, so.
Yeah, and I'm not either. But yeah, I would definitely say that high school is a weird time because you have all of these people with a different amount of learning skill set, So you have the group of people who are trying to be the valedictorian, and then you have the people who are just riding the wave, and then you have the people who don't care at all, And so, but at the end of the day, is all these people have to pass.
Yeah, they all have to walk across the stage eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think that is why high school is kind of structured the way that it is, to just have everyone at an equal level.
Yeah,
I guess.
agree.
And so I guess that is the reason that it's like that. In college, it's different because it doesn't matter. You're paying to be there, and so if you don't try and you don't put in the work, then
that sucks.
Yeah, it's too bad for you.
Yeah.
And now you're not going to graduate on time, and you had to pay for extra classes or whatever. But in high school, that's not really the case.
Yeah. I just think that there's something to academic adversity, I think.
Yeah.
I think that for me, all of my growth as a student came from whenever I had a really difficult psychology class and I had to learn how to learn stuff,
Right.
that didn't just make sense to my brain and that I couldn't just Google the answers to,
Yeah.
And that's super real. That's something that I definitely learned too, is I guess like adversity is not a bad thing, you know. Like
Not at all.
it sucks at the time, you know. But now I just kind of look at it like the fourth quarter and I just like have fun with it, you know. Like I think that something that's super important to consider too is that it's really not that serious. You know what I mean? Like
That's
like
true.
like if you drop a C or like a C minus in a class, or if you even drop like a D plus and a D plus gets you the credit for the class, you know, if it's not like a major rec, who cares?
Right.
It doesn't even matter in college, you know. In high school, it does matter because you need to set your GPA up, you know, for some kind of success if you plan on going to college or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But in college, it doesn't matter if you drop a D plus, really. You know what I mean? As long as you get the credit for the class,
Yeah.
then who cares?
Right.
And I think that that's something that's interesting, you know, too, is like you don't have to stress super hard over things that don't really make that much of a difference. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter if I know psychology super well. You know what I mean? Just a
Right.
guy who makes videos.
Yeah, and that's what I was just having a conversation the other day, and we were just talking, and I was talking about how I've gotten like a D in a class and all this stuff, and I was like, but at the end of the day, I get the same piece of paper as the person with the 4.0,
Yeah.
you know, and so like, yeah, this guy might have like some cords around his neck, and they might say some kind of crazy Greek word whenever he walks across the stage, but like we get the same piece of paper.
Yeah.
They're just like, it doesn't matter, you
Yeah,
know.
not really at all. I think that the biggest thing that I'd have taken away, maybe not the biggest, but something that's super important, is that I think too, just to like kind of set this story up for the sake of argument, is and this happens I think every time that you go to like a new school. Like in middle school, they tell you that like, oh, nothing that you do is gonna work in high school whenever you go there, and like that's just a stone cold lie. I think that there's some truth of it whenever you go from high school to college because it's very different. And for me, like the way to set yourself up for success in the easiest way is if you learn how to manage your time, you're going to be completely fine, right? I think so. I think that if you can manage your time, if you can turn your stuff in on time, I have a hard time thinking that you're going to not graduate from college.
Yeah.
And the important part of that is that you have to be able to manage your time. Like the institution can't really help you with that, just because everybody on the campus is doing different things every day. You know what I mean? Nobody has the exact same schedule as you, probably. And so you have to be able to manage your time yourself and work through your projects by yourself. But if you learn how to manage your time, then it's not really anything more difficult than anything you've ever done before, because it's just school in about half the amount of time that you were just doing it with about the same amount of work, you know? So
Yeah.
manage your time and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. And that's definitely not an easy thing to learn how to do. You know, it definitely takes some
Adversity.
it takes some hard work and some practice,
Yeah.
and like turning assignments in late to figure out how you can manage your time better.
Mhm.
Definitely, which sucky thing to do, but just has to happen.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too, is like you're like before you go to college, you don't know how at all,
Right.
because there's no way to, unless you have some kind of like like background doing something that was like very rigid structurally, you know what I mean? And you're just really good at structuring whatever it is that you do, then good for you. But otherwise, you're gonna have no idea how to manage your time and like build a routine and all that kind of stuff. It's just hard.
Yeah, it is. I think one of my favorite things about college so far, and taking the classes that I've been taking, and is being able to create in many different ways. I think with doing that and different opportunities around the school, just to make things for people, and all the other opportunities that I've had this year to make things, and just they've all been so different. And just getting my feet wet in all of those different things has been super helpful, because with that, I've learned what I enjoy creating the most. And that was the one thing that I think I was scared of figuring out, or scared of not figuring out, was what I like to create the most while I was in school. But I've only been in college for 2 years, and I've already figured out what I enjoy doing the most. And so I think that was a super important thing to learn how to, or learn what I like to do the most.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that like that's something that's kind of unique to like our field of study. You know, like you got to figure out what you want to make. You know what I mean? Like that's not something that's super applicable to like everybody's kind of thing, but that's a super important thing about college in general, is like you're gonna have to. A lot of people go and they don't know what they're trying to study. Like they don't know what field that they want to kind of pursue. And then they don't like try things, and then they get surprised when they don't, they get surprised when they're a junior and they still don't know what their major is going to be. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like there's no surprises there. You haven't tried anything yet. You know what I mean? You have to just kind of figure something out,
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is by trying things. I think that that's something that's good for college. That's like one of the best things about college for people that are like in our neck of the woods too, is it gives you the opportunity and in some cases like the access, Like if you don't have gear, a lot of colleges have gear that you can just like borrow. I think that like in your case, it gave you access to people that you could make projects about or for.
Yeah.
Which is, especially around here, like around in the physical location, that is super helpful because there's not a ton of people who either like want videos, made or who are just like around, like accessible and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I have had the same kind of opportunity. Like I have done videos for school as well, and different kind of like internship, work study type of positions, and doing different kinds of things like that, and just trying out different ways that a camera applies like in the real world. And it's fun, It's fun to see how it can work in different ways. And that's an important thing too, is like you just need to like talk to people, everybody, like just have conversations with human beings. And especially like if you're the guy with the camera, like everybody, they might not know it as soon as they meet you, but everybody is going to eventually need a guy with the camera.
Yeah.
I really do believe that.
Yeah.
And so just be the guy with the camera and be good at it. If that's what you want to do, obviously. That's kind of like the space that Caleb and I are in. This is actually probably the point that I think is the most important, which is I think like the biggest difference between college and high school. And I kind of touched on it before, which is you just have a lot more free time because you're in school for like half or like a third of the amount of time that you were whenever you were in high school. But as your free time increases, I think that naturally your productivity decreases, because you go through 4 years of high school and you go through 12 years of public education, and you're there for whatever time you're there for. You maybe have like 45 minutes of homework, and then it's 5 o'clock, and you've got from 5 until whenever you go to sleep as your free time. Whereas in college, you have 2 hours of class or 3 hours of class or whatever, and then you have 21 more hours of your day that you have to occupy. And for 12 years of your life, whenever you had free time, you just like did whatever you wanted. And so then something that I think college students fall into a lot is they see that they have free time again, and they treat it like they're in high school, and they just do whatever they want to do for 21 hours or 20 hours, which maybe you can get away with that in your classes. Personally, I don't think I really could. You know? Can't just throw away like an entire day worth of time, really. And so you have to be able to fill your schedule up with things that aren't just free time things. The way that I have it written down is if you like just be busy and then thank yourself later. Because if you occupy your time with just things, instead of having just free time, like with no kind of structure, then you'll just be more productive naturally. I think that if you're productive in other aspects of your life, it translates everywhere. I'm productive in school, I'm productive in this, and then that makes me productive in other aspects of my life. And that's just because I enjoy the feeling of like progression, which I think that everybody does. You have to just get to that point, And kind of the point too is you have so much time in college, it's like the time to start things. So like we started this podcast, it takes however many hours a week it takes. It's not like a super heavy load, it's not like actively breaking us down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's something that like keeps our brains engaged, keeps us productive, keeps us on some kind of a schedule, and then we can kind of build like our weeks around that or whatever. And there's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of other options that you can kind of do as something to work on outside of your school. But I think it's super important to work on something, like have a hobby that you can get better at or work towards or see growth in. That's super important, I think. And so just do things other than just school that are productive, and then your productivity in school will increase, and your all-around life, I think, gets better from that.
Yeah, and yeah, being productive doesn't just have to mean work.
No.
Like you can be productive if you like to go play golf. Going to the driving range is being productive,
Facts.
and like that's just like a fun thing to do for me and you anyway.
Yeah.
But
then you leave and you're like, I got better.
Right.
And
so yeah, it's just one of those things where being productive doesn't have to suck all the time.
Mm-mm.
Like you can do fun things and still be getting things done and like still be learning and all these different aspects. And so that's one thing that to keep in mind too.
Yeah.
Is like being productive all the time doesn't like it's not that hard
No.
to do.
And like being in the pursuit of something that you like.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way, to like not hate being productive. I think that golf example is insane. Like if your goal is to break 75, then like do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when we did golf practice in high school, and that was the most fun thing ever. I'm pretty convinced that like practicing golf is not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? It's not that much of like a lift. It's not that heavy of a lift. It's pretty low key. But it's fun.
Yeah.
The podcast is fun. It's
Yeah.
not like this is like that's something that we dread doing every week. We just talk
Right.
into microphones.
Right.
Simple.
Yeah. I think going to a small school and small classes was perfect
Yeah.
for me. And I think that at every school there will always be instructors and professors and teachers that like really truly care for the students, and really want the best for them. But I think that whenever you go to a small school and you can see it firsthand, like you're in a class and the class has 6 students and 1 teacher, and that teacher can like really be hands-on with like every student. I just think that did so much for me, because going from high school to college, like I had bigger classes in high school
Yeah.
than I did in college. And
We
so
went to a small high school.
yeah, and being in those like college classrooms, and you're like freaking out because it's your first semester and it's your first class ever, and you're like, what do I
What do I do?
yeah, what do I do? What can I expect? All these things going through your head. And then you go further into the semester and it's just like literally it's just so chill,
Yeah.
and it's like everyone's here for the same reason. Like we're all like taking this class, and like this instructor is teaching this class because that's what they do, and it can seem so intimidating, or at least it did to me whenever I was first like going to college. Like class was just so intimidating. Like lecture was intimidating. I was like, I don't want to get called on. Like I don't want to answer the questions because like what if I answer it wrong, and like all these people are like in here too, and all these things like go through your head. But then it's just like, dude,
It's just school.
yeah, I know it's exactly the same as high school, but it's just called something different,
Pretty much. Yeah.
And so I think whenever I understood it from that perspective, and then you can like really respect the small classes and like getting to know your peers and getting to know the instructor and like all that stuff is just has such a big impact, because then it's like you're not just doing the school for yourself, it's like you're doing it for that instructor, and it's like you're doing it for like the person who's sitting beside you in class. Because like whenever you're in small classes like that, if not everyone does their work, then that has an impact on like the whole class, so then whenever you can form a relationship with all these people, and then like you just work together and build your teamwork skills and like all that stuff, it just makes it so much easier and so much more fun, and I think so much more relaxing too.
Yeah. I think about that all the time. Like it would be a completely different way of interacting with the world if I had to go to school and sit in a lecture hall with like 150 people.
I don't know. I don't know what I would do then.
I mean, I feel like I think we could handle it. I think it would just be even more. Think about how we do all of our work like solo.
Yeah.
I think everything would feel that way.
Yeah.
I think you would just feel like a face in the crowd, which I think that there's like, who cares, but like, man, that would be strange, especially like coming from like small school kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And then you like go to that would be super weird,
Yeah, and I think like having the feeling of you're sick and you miss a class, and then you get an email from your instructor like that afternoon being like, hey,
You okay?
yeah, where were you today? Like just checking in, like there's something special about that.
I agree.
And so that is something that like going to Rowan and then transferring to Catawba, that's just like something that I feel like I needed.
Yeah.
Was like that same kind of student-teacher relationship.
I think it's just because you feel like they like are actively looking for the best for you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it definitely depends on like the luck of the draw too. You
Right.
know, like I'm sure, and I don't know. Like I don't know every professor on my campus or every department, but I'm sure that there's like some of them that are reaching out to their students more often and whatever. So it just kind of depends on the luck of the draw too. You know.
Right.
But I think so too. I think that like student staff relationship is like important too.
Yeah.
Just because it's nice to know that like if you have a question, they're gonna like answer it or they're gonna try their best. You know what I mean? And I also think too, like if you've got a good relationship with your instructor and like it comes down to like grading time and like not everything's graded, like you can just like believe that they're gonna take care of it. You know, like you have the same trust in your professors as they have like in you. Like you like my students are gonna do the paper, and so I'm gonna grade. It might not be perfectly on time, but I'm gonna grade it eventually. You know what I mean? Like that's like a nice thing too. It like relieves a level of stress, I think, because like I've never emailed my professors like, hey, like I turned this in and it's not graded. Like, are you working on it? Like I just kind of assume that they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, like,
Right.
Because it's like there's like a level of trust there. You know what I mean? Like they're not trying to get me. You know?
Right.
And not that like instructors or professors or whatever at like bigger schools are like trying to get the students. That's not true, I don't think. But it's just like more difficult for them to have that relationship, you know?
Yeah.
They have like 500 students.
Right.
What are you supposed to do with 500 people?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I've met 500 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. And yeah, I totally agree with what you said. And I think it is harder whenever you go to a big school, and this is all just opinionated because I've never been to a big school, but I think that it would be really hard for an instructor to like feel, or like for a student to even expect that you could go to a big school and like have a relationship with like a teacher, like how you could, like if you sat in a 150 person lecture hall and every seat was filled, like it would, like I would feel like an idiot if I was like, I can have a relationship with that teacher and like I know that whenever I ask him a question, he like really cares about me.
Yeah.
Because like you just don't know the dude.
That's just that's such like an egotistical thing to think, you know?
Yeah.
Like
it's like you're just silly if you think that.
You're just a face in that room. It doesn't matter who you are.
Exactly. And then it's like you would be silly to expect an email if you like miss class.
Yeah.
For him to be like, "Hey, I saw that you weren't in class today." Like,
no, we didn't.
Yeah, come on. You know, and so like all these things, and for some people that might be what you need. Like you might need to be able to go to a class with like no strings attached and like no expectations made, you know? But like that's just not how I work. I think that for me, I kind of need someone to like be dependent on me for me to like be
like fully there.
Yeah.
Fully dialed in.
Exactly.
I agree. Yeah. Because it's like an added level of pressure.
Exactly.
It's like I don't want to miss class because I like this guy.
Right.
You know? Yeah. I completely understand that. And I think that makes sense, you know? It's just two different sides of the coin too, you know? And it's like I think that the big institution versus little institution, like there's a conversation there that I wish I knew more about being at a big institution, just to like have it. But I'm sure that there's like benefits that come along with that aren't like just in the classroom. I don't know. Like that would be an interesting like thing to explore in the future. Maybe is like have somebody that can really talk about that.
Yeah.
Like on the show and then have a conversation. Who knows? Something that I think that is really interesting about my college experience has been being a commuter, which I think is obviously like a minority perspective. Like most people are not commuting to college. Whenever you're going to like 4-year institutions or whatever. I really like that. You know, like I don't really want to have to be on campus all the time. Mm-hmm. Whenever I'm there, I often wonder like what people do whenever they're there, you know, all the time. I also like that like my car is like my space, and if I don't want to bring my backpack to class and I just want to bring my iPad, I can do that. I can just leave my backpack in my car and lock the doors, you know. But I've really enjoyed being a commuter. I feel like it's kind of something different than a lot of people, obviously, like their experiences. But I also think too that it's just like the perfect way to do college in the way that like I chose to do it, which is like stay close to home and like just drive to school every day, like not that big of a deal, and have my stuff all the time, and I just have enjoyed that a lot, I think. Obviously everybody can't be like a commuting college student. And there's even like if you go to like a big school, a lot of time freshmen can't even bring their cars, which that I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's like I spend a lot of time in my car anyway because of driving to school and stuff. But I just think I've never really you don't see a lot of like commuting college student like perspective, I think. And so it's not that bad. If you like live close to like academic institutions or whatever, and you are wondering whether or not like you like need to live on campus to like make the most of it, I don't think you really do. You can just drive there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, like everybody's perspectives, I think, are different too. And I think that like if the school that we go to had like better living facilities and was like a little bit further away, then it would be like a different conversation too. But it was just kind of like a good situation for me, and so I just kind of like stuck with it. But I don't mind being a commuting college student. I don't know about how your perspective is there, but
Yeah.
probably the same way.
Yeah. So the school that I go to now, everyone commutes there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of I haven't really thought about
Yeah.
it that much, but I mean, whenever I'm going to Catawba next semester and I'm gonna commute also, and yeah, I think that it just made sense because 15 minutes down the road, and so it wouldn't really make any sense for me to live there anyway, and it's like $15,000 cheaper to. It would cost me $15,000 more to live in like a crappy dorm room
Yeah.
with a freshman, and instead of just living in my own
Room.
yeah, my own bedroom with my own bed and all of my own things. So
Yeah.
I think that it definitely just made more sense this way. But yeah, I've always wondered the same thing about what do people do on like Saturday
Mm-hmm.
whenever they live at college in Salisbury,
Yeah. Who knows?
because
Yeah. We live
Yeah.
here, man.
I know.
Yeah.
Whenever I live here on Saturday, I live at my house
Yeah.
and usually go to Concord,
Yeah.
not Salisbury.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. I don't know. That's like being a commuter definitely is like it's not weird, but it's definitely just like different because like the first question that people ask you whenever you're like around at Catawba especially is like what sport do you play, which is like commuter, so no sport. And then also like where do you live, and like whenever they say that, they like mean like what residence hall. It's like I drive here, and so it's like there is like I don't know, like divide isn't the word because there's not like beef, but there is like a disconnect, between like whatever it means to be a Catawba College student and like myself, which I think is fine. I don't feel any type of like longing for that at all, but
right.
it is something to consider, I think too, for like everybody out there. Is like if you're gonna commute to college, there is gonna be like some level of disconnect, most likely from between you, the commuter, and also like the residential students that like just live there. And so that's something to keep in mind. Like you either need to be okay with that or not, and if not, then you need to pivot. But I thoroughly enjoy being a commuting college student. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy. I just think it's crazy how fast these first 2 years went by.
yeah, dude. I feel like we're just in high school.
I know.
I really do feel that way. I feel like I sound old saying like stuff like that, but
Yeah, I know. Everyone always says the older you get and the further you get in your school, like the faster the years go by. And I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Because it takes a long time for a year to go by. But, dude, it does not take that long.
well, college I think blows by because it's like 90 days of class, and it's like for me, commuting college student, I'm on campus like 2.5 or 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
So it's a 4-hour commitment of my time. Half hour there, half hour back, class.
Yeah. Yeah.
4 hours of my 24-hour day,
I know. But
it is insane.
It's just, and like, especially this semester, dude.
Yeah, this semester torched. I feel like the no breaks thing, pretty much, only spring break, basically, it does make it speed up, but it also makes it suck. I hate spring semester, so.
I like spring semester so much better.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
Yeah. Man.
I like the breaks. To me, the break, the like little couple day breaks, those don't break the momentum up too much for me.
Yeah, they do for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I don't really, I think it's because I look forward to them so much.
The breaks?
Yeah,
I don't really.
I think that it's like, I can't wait for Christmas, or like I can't wait for Thanksgiving, I can't wait for Christmas, and like all these things, and then you are like almost there, and it's like it can't come any faster because I'm so ready to like not have school or whatever, and then it just like takes my focus off of what I'm actually doing, and you're just like thinking about like what you're gonna eat on Thanksgiving or whatever.
I don't really have that so much. I just don't really look forward to the breaks that way. I don't even, honestly, a lot of the time, me and my mom usually have the same academic schedule, which is like a nice plus. And so she usually just is like, hey, you don't have school next week. And I'm like, freaking yippee, like this is amazing news because I had no idea, I don't know. That's just how I operate. Because I always just find that like accidentally finding out or like surprise you don't have school is much better than like counting down the days for me. Like, surprise, you don't have school next Monday and Tuesday. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. I'm like fully into that. We can talk about this for a second, I think, on the show. I don't have notes for this, but I think it'll be interesting. Like, what do you think as of today, May 9th, 2023, what does the post-grad plans look like?
I don't really think I have an exact answer for that. I think that I definitely want to start some type of photography thing that I can do just whenever. But I also kind of, I don't really know. I envision myself working for a like just digital media company for a couple years or so, just to try more things than I got to try in school, and just like really figure out what I want to do and like what the path looks like to get there, and work alongside people who are doing the same things that I'm doing, and I can talk to them and all that stuff. But I mean, like end goal, I want to eventually just do my own thing. Whatever that looks like, I don't really know, because the field it just changes so much throughout months,
and there's no way to know.
Yeah, and so, but I do want to go back and get my master's degree. So eventually, that is on the table too. I want to get a master's of fine arts and just play around with that. Yeah, I don't really want the master's degree for anything special. I literally just want to go and like be in class with people who like think conceptually, and I want to like talk to them a lot. Yeah. And work on a big project and like have an excuse to do something really cool. Yeah. So
sweet. I think I'm about the same way. I think that grad school would be fun. Yeah. I think that the way that I would do that too is I would do it in the big school way. Yeah. That's what I would want to do. Yeah. Just because I think it would be interesting as like an experiment, but I also think that access is that's how I would like use grad school, is access to humans and also to like space. And I mean, colleges are usually like big schools are usually in cool places, and cool places are easy to make videos about. Yeah. We don't live in a cool place, and it's super hard to make videos. I think that's like my experience, but that's kind of like the direction that I think that feels right to me. I mean, who knows? But that to me feels like the play. Yeah. Yeah. Just figure out how to make videos all the time. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much the dream. It's been the dream since I was like a kid. So yeah. All right, reflecting on 2 years of college. Boom. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching this episode of Caddy Corner. This is episode 59, which means that next episode is episode 60, which we are recording in about 2 minutes. We will be wearing the same outfits, so don't make fun of us too much. I'm Austin. He's Caleb. We're back every single Friday for this kind of show. More informative, more like lifestyle, I would say. And so if you're into that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, rate and review, ring the bell, share it around to your family and friends. We have a very large catalog of other shows you can check out as well. All you have to do is scroll down a couple of boxes, and there's plenty to choose from. So make sure to do that. There's also Caddy Corner After Hours every Wednesday, laid back, kickback vibes, where we just talk about whatever we want to for as long as we want to talk about it. We will see you all next week. Peace.